Thank you very much. These things go for thousands on the black market, so I understand why you take them. I have my own collection. I am the co-author, researcher, presenter, along with some other people of Deloitte's TMT, Tech Media Telecom Predictions Annually. The report goes live on December 10th, 2000. That's now. You are the first people in the world to hear this. I want to start off by talking about AVOD. I think everybody here knows what ad-supported video on demand is. We have this nice slide running through it. A lot of different models. You can see where AVOD fits there. It doesn't have Pluto on there. I will be talking about Pluto in a second. Here are the numbers. These are our predictions for 2020. Globally, $32 billion in AVOD revenues, up, you can see 47% from 2018. That's pretty impressive two-year growth. Asia-Pac is obviously the elephant in the room, single biggest market. When I'm talking Asia-Pac, I'm talking China and India. They are disproportionately most of that. Europe's still fairly small on AVOD for a number of reasons that you can probably think about. North America, to me, is the fascinating one. 59% growth in a two-year period. AVOD is generally not thought of as a North American phenomenon, and it has sort of been true. It is becoming increasingly less true. North America is the fastest growing region. It's not just dollars, it's not just billions of dollars, it's people. Eyeballs, these are the monthly average users, with more than 1.1 billion in the first two in China, 1.5 billion in the first three, and then you throw in another $500 million from India, we're talking about an awful lot of eyeballs globally. Absolutely massive numbers when placed in the context of SVOD services like Netflix or Amazon Prime. Want to spend a second talking about the U.S. Obviously, that North American growth dominated by U.S. compared to Canada. Hulu, 57 million. You can see Roku, Tubi, Pluto coming in there. Smaller numbers than Asia, but let's talk monetization for just a second. In China, 510 a year from this is a simple exercise. What are the revenues for that country for AVOD divided by the number of users? It's pretty straightforward. You can see the monetization number in the US is significantly higher. I really, for Japan, for Singapore, for Canada, for most of Western Europe, Australia, of course, I think that number is one you want to hold in your head. It's about $5 a month. That's really the value of AVOD. Whether it is a completely free service or whether it is a discount. In other words, if something costs $15 a month as an SVOD service, it's going to cost $10 a month as an AVOD. That, I really think, is the sweet spot in the developed world. I have a question for the room. Has anybody here watched more than 9 minutes of completely free AVOD like a Pluto? I don't know if they, as a Canadian, I'm not allowed to give out Order of the Garter to individuals, but it's an interesting exercise to watch the completely free stuff. I am not attempting to make fun of Pluto TV. Okay. Maybe a little. This is an utterly random selection. I just went on Pluto and I was in the States and I played around and I just scrolled across and I cannot help. I've got a laser, that's excellent. Yes, there is news if you're particularly interested in Russian propaganda. Yes, there is Mystery Science Theater 3000, which when I was 19 I completely enjoyed, not so much recently. Sports, absolutely, if you're a kickboxing fan. The one that I really, it's kind of cut off here at the bottom, but I commend to everybody in the world this. It is, it's hard to describe this. They put a GoPro camera on a choo-choo train traveling through somewhere in Europe, I think Central Europe, it's hard to tell, on a gray, cloudy day as it rains, and you watch this. But it's free. I think we need to be going forward when we think about AVOD. There absolutely is a market for fireplace channels and stuff like that. But, and this is just randomly the ad, there were other ads that came up. The ads that are following along the pure free service ad supported only are kind of what you would almost expect those ads to be. In Switzerland, that's it for AVOD. In Switzerland, they are planning on actually shutting off digital terrestrial television. Approximately 1.1% of people in Switzerland still consume terrestrial TV via an antenna, which leads to the conclusion, slightly ruined by my introduction, thank you, but which leads to the conclusion, what's it like around the rest of the world? Quick show of hands, who here in the last 12 months has watched some or all of their television through a terrestrial TV antenna? It'll be nobody, of course. I'm surprised it's not slightly higher than that. I have the numbers. Just a quick one, nobody's ever done this before. There are studies country by country. My friends at RTL AdConnect, thank you for their data for Europe, have put it together for Europe, but there is no global survey of how many people around the world still consume terrestrial TV. Because it doesn't, sometimes it looks like this, but increasingly, for example, in North America, this is what it would look like. It's about the size of an iPad. You put it up inside your home. As long as your walls are not made out of steel, you can pick up 20, 30 channels for free. Absolutely free, but supported by ads. Essentially, one way of thinking about antenna TV is it's the new AVOD. What do the numbers look like? Here you go. North America, fairly small, but I'll show you some numbers on that that make it more interesting. Latin America, pretty big. Definitely. This is Mexico, South, including the Caribbean. Europe, bigger than many people would think. Switzerland is very much an outlier. Middle East, North Africa, smaller than you'd think. A lot of satellite TV in Middle East, North Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa, massive, massive market. South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, smaller than you might think. Same with China, East Asia. Southeast Asia and Oceania. Absolutely massive, massive market. You are looking at large growing markets across Southeast Asia. Very strong economies, very, very interesting numbers there. What are the 11 largest markets? You may wonder why I picked 11. It's so that I could fit the US on the extreme right-hand side of it. Indonesia, very, very large. India, despite a small percentage, it adds up to a fair-sized number. You can see the numbers there, but certainly markets like Japan, markets like Italy, markets like the US sort of jump out at me for their economic importance. Here we go. I think this is probably the one that might be the most relevant here. In the US, 13% of people, that's about 40 million homes, consume some or all of their television, often complemented with SVOD. Same in the UK. 44% of people, according to Ofcom, have an antenna and use it for watching some or all of their TV. And in the Ofcom report, they specifically shout out services such as Netflix as a complement to antenna TV. Germany, relatively low, but France, Italy, Spain, quite high. In terms of percentages, the US number, I have to flag that, it's up 50%. Of those you have seen lost to cord cutting, remember the US in the last few years has seen the number of traditional cable subscriptions drop from about 101 million to just over 90 million. They've lost about 10, 11 million homes. They've picked up 4 or 5 million of those going to antenna TV. Traditional TV broadcasters are still reaching them. They're not reaching them through a cable bundle. They're reaching them over the air, but they're still reaching them. Why does that matter quite as much as it does? This is Nielsen numbers. These are the most recent Q1 report from Nielsen's Local Watch. I thought this was just fascinating. So this is people who have both streaming pay TV and antenna TV. And what you're seeing here is that those who have traditional pay TV, that would be MVPD, that's either a cable, satellite, or telco TV, that would include a virtual MPVD for those who follow the American market. You can see that the total number of minutes of TV is fairly large, but 42 minutes of those are consumed time-shifted. Now, some people time-shift for other reasons, but a significant number of them use it for ad skipping. And of course, if you are buying ads on TV, paying for ads that people skip is not a particularly compelling proposition. Now, for those of you who have antennas, you may know that you can buy a PVR, DVR, a digital box that you can use to time shift antenna TV. Virtually nobody does that in the US. For whatever reason, people who have antennas tend to consume almost all of their television live, which means they're not ad skipping. This is Canadian data. I happen to ask the question slightly better in Canada, but the Canadian market and the American market are going to be quite similar. I thought this was fascinating. I've never actually, so this is quite important. We asked 1,069 Canadians, 18 to 75, this was last year in 2018, but we asked them in the same survey the same question about radio and TV. When a commercial comes on radio, how often do you change the channel, get up, leave the room, whatever it is? How often do you skip the ads? And then we asked the identical question for television, and this is the percentage of people who either always or almost always do that. And I think the number really, really jumps out at me. When it comes to TV, ad skipping is approximately 4 times higher. Now it varies by age group, but you can see it there. This was an exercise I did for a Canadian broadcaster. What I did is I took the numbers, the actual numbers in the US for media consumption. You can see Americans watch 427 of live and time-shifted traditional television, 142 of radio, 115 of SVOD or AVOD. That's actually an estimate for me. That's not the Nielsen number. 54 minutes, we're now back to Nielsen. 54 minutes is a TV-connected device. You've got your smartphone, and then you've got your PC and your tablets there. Everybody's got that, okay? What I did is I took the percentage change in all of those categories, all of those 1 to 6 buckets, and I simply drew linear trend lines out. If this goes on, what do the numbers end up looking like? It gets quite interesting. There's some fascinating things going on. Certainly, one of the things that jumps out, obviously, traditional linear television, live and time shifted, drops by about an hour and a half a day, which is roughly picked up by SVOD, AVOD. Smartphone continues, obviously, to take a fair bit of time. Computer use drops, which I found sort of interesting. But between the connected TV, maybe through a TiVo, and SVOD, AVOD, we see a pickup. The total media time doesn't really shift, right? But traditional linear television drops a fair bit. SVOD, AVOD grows in terms of time spent. Total video stays about the same. When we look, on the other hand, at 18 to 34-year-olds, the numbers get quite interesting. Traditional TV is already down to just under 2 hours a day in the US of live and time shifted. It drops to 48 minutes a day. Radio, weirdly, by 2023, young Americans will be watching, or rather listening to, more minutes of traditional radio than they will be watching minutes of traditional ad-supported television. There's a crossover in 2023. You can see AVOD grows to be much larger than traditional, AVOD, SVOD, sorry. Smart TV will continue to grow, and then smartphone just reaches, 4 hours a day. Putting that all together, this is my favorite slide. What does that look like in terms of dollars? These are some extrapolations. This is US market. If you look at the business of selling people minutes of wireless data and gigabytes of, and all of that, that business grows fairly significantly based just on historical growth rates. When I look on, sorry about the legend here, it got a little scrambled. When I look at wired broadband, that's cable, internet, high-speed internet. Not wireless, that's wireline high-speed internet. It grows by about 34. Yes, there is cord cutting. Yes, people are canceling cable, satellite, telco, TV. That shrinks by about 24. First point I'd like to make is that it's still a net growth industry. What the providers are losing from cable packages, cable bundles, they make up for from increased consumption of data. It's not a wash, it's actually a net win. The other point I'll make is that $88 billion for cable is certainly smaller than 112, but it's still an $88 billion a year market. That's a not insignificant market. And the final point, now that I'm at a future of TV advertising, is that TV ads stay remarkably stable over this period. The numbers are that they're not shrinking. They go up a little in every 4 years, as you know, for the election cycle and the Olympics, but by and large, running at about $70 billion a year. I'm out of time. Oh, quickly, just because I wanted, just audiobooks, monetization. This is just a prediction we're dealing with. I just found this fascinating. Audiobooks make about $70 per listener per year. Podcasts, which is a growing, important market. Who here listens to podcasts? You make about $9 per user per year. Worth throwing that number in here, I thought. This is me. I just put this slide up here in case anybody needs to contact me. Do we have time for one question?
Okay, so anyone has a quick question? We have 10 seconds.
How do you factor in gaming?
Gaming would be part of the smartphone use. It would be part of the PC use. Consoles, Nielsen did not report console time in this one. I'm not sure why. Consoles, on the other hand, tend to be fairly niche. Gaming as a percentage of the total time, obviously very significantly by demographics. Running the number from my head, it'll be about 30 to 45 minutes a day. So lower than any other category, but not an unimportant category, and one with significant advertising opportunities. Great question.
Another quick question. No, in that case, oh, yes, yes, someone has a...
What do you see the future of the BBC model here in the UK?
The future of the BBC model.
In which sense?
We'll pay a TV license each year.
That occurs in other countries as well, of course. I don't talk specifically about that because so much of my data is North American based, but it absolutely feels like one of the viable models out there. There's no real reason why that needs to go away. It's just another way of putting dollars in.